Hello and welcome to another Dark Eldar video. Today we're looking at my 1500 point tournament Dark Eldar army. So sit back and let's break this down, shall we? Join the community today by supporting over on Patreon, as well as liking the Facebook page and visiting other social media like Instagram, Twitter. Check the links down below. Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast army building video. Today we're looking at 1500 points of Dark Eldar army. Now this is a competitive army that I'm going to be running on and off on the competitive scene in my area, and I wanted to share it with you, the YouTube community. So make sure you leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. Check the links to all the other stuff that we do here at SkaredCast, and let's begin. First I'm going to talk about the army itself. I'm going to touch on a few different things that I like about the army. Now I have a tournament I'm going to this weekend, or this weekend after I film this. So what I will try and do is do a comprehensive tactical corner, and I will review the army after the full tournament. It's a 4-round tournament. Now this is 1500 points. It is a 2-detachment army. So we have a Dark Eldar combined arms detachment and a formation detachment from the Coven book, which is the Grotesquerie. Now this means that as per ITC, you have some wiggle room, and because it's only 1500 points, you have about 350 points that you could even add in an Eldar allied detachment, or some Corsairs, or some more Coven, or you name it. You could really fit in anything that you wanted in order to make this army into something that you would see more often. So let's begin with the formation detachment, which is a Grotesquerie. So we have a homunculus. I have made him the warlord for this army because he's a little tougher than usual, and I have 2 units of 3 grotesques each in a raider. Now the raiders are armed with disintegrator cannons, and this one has enhanced sails, so it goes faster when it turbo boosts. The grotesques are not upgraded with anything, but they are stock, and they're quite powerful. If you're unsure what the Grotesquerie does, check the links down below. There is a link to the actual formation and its rules, so you can kind of see what it does. I like that they are tougher, they are stronger, they are fearless, they can kill monstrous creatures, they hold up against gargantuan creatures, and with the right modification roll, +1 strength for example, they become strength 6 and become even dangerous against some lightly armored tanks or walkers. The homunculus is armed with a flesh gauntlet, which is a poison weapon 4+, that causes instant death on a roll of a 6 to wound, and he is armed with a Vexator mask. In a challenge, enemy characters are at -5 initiative, which can catch even a Demon Prince off guard. Then we have the Meat and Potatoes, a combined arms detachment of Dark Eldar, led by a Lamian. Now she is an HQ choice and takes up the HQ slot for 10 points, which unlocks the rest of the combined arms detachment, which means I don't have to spend too many points on HQ. Now this is very important when building a Dark Eldar combined arms tournament detachment. The more points you spend on troops, the less troops you take. And the Dark Eldar basic troops are actually very good. She is going in one of the Venoms with dual splinter cannons. So in the HQ slot, a Venom and a Lamian. Then we have the Elite slot. For the Elites, I've run 3 Mandrakes. Now a lot of folks don't appreciate the Mandrake, but I'm a huge proponent of being able to affect the game in multiple phases of the game. So having something that can outflank and or infiltrate, or just harass the enemy, or be in the backfield taking and controlling an objective with their stealth and shrouded, can be really handy and has caught a lot of folks and a lot of opponents off guard. Now, their shooting is rather good with Strength 4, AP 4 shots that cause Soul Blaze. And that can catch small units of backfield objective holders unawares. Now, with the power from Pain, getting Feel No Pain, Furious Charge, even Rage towards the end of the game, that can really bring them to be quite a powerful little unit for only 36 points. In the troops, we have 4 Cabalite warrior units. We have 2 5-man units in Venoms with dual cannons. Each of these 5-man units has a Cyberite with a Haywire grenade upgrade. Now, why the Haywire grenade upgrade? Because, unlike the blaster, it can also be used in close combat, which then means that each unit effectively has 2 chances at doing some damage to a tank instead of just 1 chance. It is shorter range, but being able to charge in also prevents the enemy from shooting you if they're in combat and they survive. It's a great thing to have against walkers and super heavy walkers like knights. I also have 2 additional Cabalite warrior units in raiders with disintegrator cannons. This one is a 6-man unit, same with a Saberite with a Haywire grenade, and this one is a 5-man unit with another Saberite with a Haywire grenade. Another note is the Haywire grenade allows the unit to retain all of its splinter weaponry, namely the splinter rifles, which keeps each unit dedicated to its particular role of shooting poison weapons, which means that it can still deal with the infantry that it's designed to deal with while having the grenade in order to mitigate the armor in close range combat. So now we'll move on to the fast attack. Now, I'm a big fan of Dark Eldar fast attack choices. So in this case, I have run 2 units of 3 Reaver jet bikes and 1 unit of 5 Scourge. The Reaver jet bikes are armed with cluster caltrops, and I have 1 unit with a heat lance, which I might be dropping. The cluster caltrops do D6, strength 6 rending, Hammer of Wrath attacks, which really does a lot of damage against things like cover, such as the stalkers or infiltrators, or things that are, for example, in the cult Mechanicus War Convocation, as the strength 6 will instant kill them. And the initiative 10 helps mitigate the lack of grenades. The Scourge of 5 Scourge, I have 4 heat lances in that unit. They are quite simply a suicide deep strike squad. Or if they arrive via regular reserve, they can jump up 12 inches if the enemy is using a very aggressive in-your-face army. They're designed to drop down and draw some interceptor fire, or to threaten the backfield with some strength 6 AP2 melter lance weapons, and I cannot recommend them enough. And then last but not least, the trusted and true Ravager. I have 2 of them in the army with 3 lances. They are like a predator. They just sit back and shoot and move around and do some damage. But most of all, they do soak up some damage with their armor 11. So, 1,500 points of competitive Dark Eldar. The main strength of this army is the multiple units, being able to go after multiple objectives, but also being able to focus fire on specific enemy units and take them down with just sheer weight and volume of dice. One of the main disadvantages of this army is it is quite fragile, so it struggles at wars of attrition against things like Necrons or even Imperial Guard. Armies like the Eldar and Tau, some of my toughest matchups because of the high volume of strength 5 or 6 shots. And Tau especially because of their ignore cover with their smart missile systems being able to damage pretty much the entirety of my army. So this army is not a point and click list. It is a very finesse style army. It does work a little bit like a swarm, and you have to be quite cold-blooded when playing the game, as you have to know that every single one of your models is going to die at some point. It's your choice as an Archon to make sure that they die at the precise moment that you intended them to die, which then allows you to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes or taking the bait and then focusing on them completely. Another thing you should be wary of are flamers, because they are quite nasty. Last but not least, the biggest strength of the army, I believe, is the grotesquerie. This little unit is very underrated in the competitive scene, and grotesques, if you have not given them a chance, I highly recommend them, as they are absolute beatsticks, and they will surprise you when you're using them in close combat, even against some very tough close combat opponents, being able to cause instant death, and even going against highly outnumbered enemies in combat and getting more attacks with Rampage. All in all, this has been a fantastic little army to collect. I'm slowly painting them up all to this standard, so you will see the army as I work on it, now that I've done some more work on my Ravagers and on the Reaver jet bikes. But all in all, this has been a really fun army to play, and it is a mono Dark Eldar build with the Coven force. So let me know what you think. What do you think will happen in the tournament? What do you think? Would you play an army like this? What would you do against it? Would you like to collect the Dark Eldar? If so, leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to know what you think. And this is Skara, your grateful host. Now let's move on to some tactical notes about the army. Hello and welcome to a tactical overview of 1500 points of competitive Dark Eldar. So I'm going to go through a couple of different games and how I've used the army in the past. Playing against Space Marines, the Grotesques seem to be some of the best units to have, as they're very resilient and can survive a lot of firepower. Being able to mobilize and move makes us very good at taking key parts of the battlefield and wiping out small Marine units. I've also taken the army against Chaos Space Marines, and against Chaos Space Marines or KDK with submarines, very similar sort of tactics, but really hinging on the Grotesque's strength and then using mobility to strike at the squishier parts of the enemy armies as well. Now, something that's key to remember is that your armies will die, and we do have a couple of very bad matchups, namely the Tau. And when you do face a Tau gun line, just stick to your guns and make sure that you know you're going to be removing a lot of models from the table, but try and mitigate the damage with line of sight blocking terrain and with playing to the mission, which was evident in the last tournament I went to, where I played to the mission in the games and was able to really pull ahead in points. And don't forget, as a Dark Eldar general, you can gamble a little bit. Go for winning big, like in my last game at the Path of Glory 3, where I rushed a Tau army and took the victory from the jaws of defeat.